The ocean was restless that morning, its waves crashing like a beating heart against the golden shore. A storm had passed in the night, leaving the sky heavy with gray clouds, and the air carried the scent of salt and possibility. On the sand, children laughed and chased seagulls, their tiny footprints quickly erased by the tide. And among them was one man, a father watching, always watching. His name was Daniel Carter, a single dad who had built his life around the safety of his little girl. He wasn't expecting the ocean to test him that day, nor was he expecting fate to bring him face to face with a stranger who would change everything. Before I dive into this heart-touching story, take a moment to like this video, share your thoughts in the comments, and subscribe to Be Kind TV for more powerful stories that celebrate humanity, resilience, and love. Daniel sat on the weathered wooden bench with his daughter Lily playing close by. She was only 7, with wild curls the color of chestnuts and eyes that gleamed with curiosity. Since losing his wife 3 years ago to illness, Daniel had learned to smile again only because of her. The beach was their refuge, their escape from bills piling on his kitchen counter and the heaviness of responsibilities that often felt too big for one man to carry. But he carried them anyway, because she deserved the world. Lily shrieked with laughter as a wave nearly touched her toes. Daniel's smile softened, but then his gaze shifted. Something was wrong. A figure in the water, farther out than most swimmers, wasn't moving. He squinted, rising to his feet, his heart tightening with instinct. It was a woman. At first, he thought maybe she was floating, but the way her arms bobbed limp against the current told him otherwise. Without hesitation, Daniel sprinted into the water. The cold struck his chest like knives, but adrenaline carried him forward. Waves pushed him back, the current tugged at his legs, but he fought, swimming hard until he reached her. Her face was pale, lips blue, and her eyes half closed. He hooked his arm beneath her shoulders, whispering, "Hold on, just hold on." Dragging her back to shore felt endless. Every muscle in his body screamed, but he thought only of Lily, standing on the beach with fear in her eyes. He couldn't fail. Not this woman, not anyone's child, not anyone's mother, sister, or daughter. When at last they collapsed onto the sand, Daniel positioned her carefully, tilted her head back, and began CPR. Press, breathe, press, breathe. His hands shook, but his rhythm was steady. Lily cried, "Daddy." As she owed suddenly, like the ocean itself giving her back, she gasped. Her chest rose, her eyes flew open, and she coughed salt water. Relief flooded Daniel, and he gently cradled her head, whispering, "You're safe now. You're okay." Her name, though he didn't know it yet, was Alexandra Hayes. To the world, she was a billionaire heiress, a businesswoman feared in boardrooms, admired in magazines, and untouchable to most. But lying on the sand, dazed and vulnerable, she was just a woman who had almost drowned. The crowd clapped, but Daniel wasn't looking for applause. He was too focused on making sure she could breathe steadily, on keeping his daughter calm, on being the man who saved without expecting anything in return. And that, perhaps, was why Alexandra couldn't stop looking at him, even in her weakness, even as paramedics arrived to lift her away. For days, Daniel thought little of it. Life returned to routine. He fixed cars in his small garage, packed Lily's school lunches, and struggled with overdue notices in the mail. But Alexandra couldn't forget the man on the beach, the stranger who held her like she mattered, not like she was a headline or a fortune. 2 weeks later, a black car pulled up outside Daniel's modest home. Lily watched wide-eyed as a tall, elegant woman stepped out, her dark hair flowing in the sunlight, her presence commanding yet warm. Daniel nearly dropped his lunch when he saw her. "You," he whispered. Alexandra smiled softly. "I had to find you." The connection between them wasn't instant romance. It was something slower, more human. She visited often under the guise of thanking him, but really, she wanted to know him. She wanted to know how a man with so little gave so much. She wanted to know why his eyes, though tired, carried so much quiet strength. But Daniel resisted. He had no time for love, not with Lily depending on him. And besides, what could a billionaire possibly see in a mechanic drowning in debt? His pride told him to push her away. Yet every time she laughed with Lily, every time she rolled up her sleeves and helped in the garage, every time she reminded him that kindness doesn't keep score, his walls began to crumble. Still, challenges rose like waves. Paparazzi stalked. Gossip columns spun tales about the billionaire and the single dad. Daniel's ex-in-laws questioned if he was fit to raise Lily in such chaos. And inside himself, Daniel wrestled with the belief that he wasn't enough for a woman who could buy the world. Then came the night of the storm. Lightning cracked. The power in his home went out, and Lily fell ill with a fever that scared him to his core. Daniel panicked, fumbling for medicine he couldn't afford, until Alexandra arrived, uninvited, soaked from the rain, carrying not wealth but comfort. She stayed all night, cooling Lily's forehead, singing soft lullabies, proving she wasn't just a billionaire, but a woman who cared deeply. It was then Daniel realized love isn't about riches, nor about perfect timing. It's about showing up when it matters most. Their bond deepened. Alexandra offered to help with his debts, but Daniel refused. What he couldn't refuse, however, was her heart. She didn't want to change his world with money, she wanted to share it, storms and all. And as the seasons passed, the beach where they first met became their sanctuary. One evening, under a sky streaked with gold and lavender, Daniel held Alexandra's hand as Lily built sandcastles beside them. "I never thought I'd get a second chance," he said quietly. Alexandra leaned closer. "Sometimes, second chances find us when we're drowning." Before we reach the ending of this story, let me gently remind you, if this journey has touched your heart, please support us by liking this video, sharing it with someone who needs hope, and subscribing to Beacon TV. Your engagement helps us spread more stories of love, courage, and kindness. And so, Daniel, the single dad who once believed his life would never rise above struggle, found himself loved not for what he could give, but for who he already was. Alexandra, the billionaire who had everything yet felt empty, discovered that the greatest wealth was not in possessions, but in the hands that pulled her from the water, in the laughter of a little girl, and in the embrace of a man who lived with quiet courage.